All right, here we are back in the car. And this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we have the two semifinals for the 2024 League of Legends World Championship. Each of these is obviously a best of five. We're coming up on the end of the tournament here. We got the four best teams in the world, if you want to look at it that way by results. Let's get right into the predictions here. So, starting off, Weibo Gaming versus Billy Gaming, the number 4 seed of the LPL and the number 1 seed of the LPL. These teams, obviously, this was the finals match in LPL this year. Billy won 3-1 in that series, but overall looked like the better team for the most part. So we've already gone over in the quarterfinals how each team got here, so we'll just go over quickly how they won their quarterfinals respectively, and then we're going to get into the matchups lane by lane, what I think favors, and some key points. So let's start off. Obviously, Weibo Gaming taking care of LNG 3-1 in that quarterfinal, really looking like the better team overall. Obviously, they won a majority of the games, but LNG takes game 1, and Weibo just kind of methodically picks their moments and takes the next 3 in a row, looked really clean doing it. Played a lot better than I expected them to, beating those fraud allegations to a certain extent at least. And then BLG playing one of the best series we've ever seen. Unfortunate it only went 4 games over HLE with some monster performances, especially by Elk on that Kai'Sa. Game 4 is one of the best games of League of Legends I've ever seen. And with that, let's get into some matchups. Top lane, Breathe versus Bin. Obviously, I think this has been favored. Bin's probably the best top laner at the tournament. Skill for skill and just form-wise has been looking amazing. Tarzan versus Jun in the jungle. You probably lean Tarzan just based off of kind of that reputation. Obviously been a name ever since Griffin back in 2019. Guy's a complete monster. But Jun also very reliable. Of course, BLG can also put in Wei if they feel like it, but Jun has been their pick recently, and he's been playing quite well. Xiaohu versus Knight in the mid lane. Obviously, Xiaohu's been around a while, played top lane. He was the RNG top laner for a long time, switched to mid. But Knight is, he's the Chovy of this region. He is the world's-less monster of the region, basically. So I'd lean Knight there, but Xiaohu obviously has his things he can do better. Bot lane, Light and Crisp. Crisp, former World Championship winner with FPX in 2019. Rest in peace, G2. Then Elk and on the other side. On has been looking amazing, especially on the Rakan. Rakan being a big pick in this matchup, especially. Wouldn't be surprised if it saw some bans, or at least should be having presence in every single pick ban, I think. But Elk obviously is the star here. He's looking like a complete monster in the AD carry role. Incredible Kai'Sa player. Fantastic mechanics. Just the ability to solo mechanically outplay entire fights. The Game 4 team fight against HLE was unbelievable. It's some of the best AD carry play I've ever seen. We love our 2018, 2017 AD carries, you know what I'm saying? So, with that, this is obviously, like I said, LPL Finals rematch. BLG obviously looked way better in summer than they did at Worlds, but coming into this series, BLG's form seems to have resurged after some time off to prepare for quarterfinals. Weibo Gaming, they're a team that knows how to win. They're so calculated with what they do. They know where they can get their opportunities, and they capitalize on mistakes really well. And that is a good strategy, but BLG is also certainly not a team that's going to give you many of those opportunities. So we'll see if Weibo has to kind of go out of their comfort zone a bit and maybe not take as many guaranteed plays, because I think they're good at seeing those guaranteed plays. LNG obviously did not show in the form that I expected in quarterfinals, and Weibo exploited that beautifully and really showed that they belong here. And, it's two semifinals in a row. You can't be too mad about that. BLG, like I said, one of the best series ever. Too bad it only went to 4, but it also shows that they were the dominant team there, outplaying HLE in a majority of that series. Aside from game 1, obviously they didn't look the greatest, but they just kind of looked better at every step. Macro looked a little better. In team fighting especially, there was a certain gap where the players were so mechanically good, along with that intelligent base of how to play the game, through early game lanes and all that, not just mechanical monsters, as just very well coached as well. And obviously they're smart players, of course. It is too bad that both these semis are region cannibalism, but it guarantees LPL LCK finals. I'd prefer to see Genji versus BLG. I think that's the matchup. That's the most hype matchup. It's going to tell you who the absolute best team in the world is this year. And Genji would almost complete the golden road if they wanted to be literally one game off of it happening. But either way, I think if BLG brings the form that they brought against HLE, I think Weibo is just screwed. I don't know if any team beats BLG in top form like that. And man, they've just looked so good in games 2, 3, and 4. Elk, obviously just such a monster. I don't know if you can let him get on that Kaisa, or at least not get good games with it. Maybe leave it up if you see that they're kind of drafting stuff that isn't conducive to having a Kaisa around it. But, I mean, it's hard to play around 80 carry bands, especially in this meta, because there's none that really stick out as, like, absolutely game-breaking, because you've got Aurora, you've got the Yones, the Skarners of the world to worry about, but also Elk Ezreal, also a monster on that. So there's a lot of picks. The guy's just crazy good, so it might be more than just a pick band thing. Bin's also been looking amazing, obviously. It was weird that BLG was banning Jax on blue side against HLE, considering Doran literally was playing on their team. They basically had 2 top laners the whole series, let's be honest. So I think BLG coaching needs to work on their draft a little bit personally. I just don't think it was really the most amazing drafting choices ever. I mean, they still won, but just some suspect choices, it could be better, I think, personally. Weibo, I think they need to play perfect to win this series. They really do. Kind of how they won their games against LNG. Not falling too far behind, keeping up with the macro, and snapping on the opportunities, knowing, all right, these item timings, we are just stronger. Gold's even, but we're stronger. Let's force something. Let's win. And that's especially an issue because BLG is so mechanically good, they can kind of make up for some of those small deficits. And they're just so clean everywhere, man. They know how to win as well. They really do. Some more points here, last few. Team fights are going to be really interesting because BLG is just monsters in them. Probably the best team fighting team at Worlds, especially after beating out HLE, and that was kind of their thing. And Weibo Gaming doesn't like to opt into team fights they're not really confident in. So like I said earlier, I think Weibo needs to lower their expectations of what they're going to find for fights and be ready for it to get brought to them. Like, these players just know how to maximize their champions. They play so well around their tanks, so well around their carries. Their carries, even if you get to them, have a chance to outplay you. These fights are going to be awesome, I think, because both teams, I feel like, will be confident that they're taking the right fight when they finally happen. So hopefully they're nice, close bangers. This has a possibility to be a slow series as well, I think, because Weibo, if they're not falling brutally far behind, I think is pretty happy. And BLG will be happy if they're getting their slight advantages because they can accrue those through the game. They've shown that they're able to keep up on that macro level. I still think it's BLG favorite if that happens, though, just because typically the better team does better when there's not chaos. My prediction personally is a BLG 3-0. As much as I just said this could be close, I think they're in form. They've got the lights on them. They're not going to make the mistakes they did last year. They're looking so much better. I think they're going to be motivated, and I think they just put the iron fist down and blow right through Weibo. I think, maybe not blow right through, but like convincingly win their games, show that they are the team that should be playing for the World Championships. And in my opinion, they are the team that should be playing for the finals. So it all depends on how they play on the day, but I see them playing pretty well. I think we're in for a treat, though, even if it's just 3 games. So, with that, T1 versus Generation Gaming, the 4th seed of LCK and the 1st seed of LCK. Just going over the quarterfinals, obviously T1 beat a very lethargic-looking TS 3-0. Looked good in the series, looked clean, calculated, no mechanical misplays, absolutely outplaying TS. Just a boring series because there was just no resistance. TS just looked so flat. I don't want to diminish T1's win at all. It was a great win. It's just, I also read some reports that Fly was beating TS in some scrims, and maybe there's just something off with that team. Who knows? But either way, good performance from T1. They've looked good in the tournament. What can you say? It's Worlds T1. They're looking good. And they're here. They don't lose to LPL teams, apparently. So, with that, Gen G, obviously a 3-2 victory over Fly. Close series, but due to Fly's creativity, and Fly's not a bad team, I think you have to say that they did exactly what they would need to do to win that series. And when the games were standard, Gen G kind of smashed them. The games Gen G won were not close games. Games 2 and 4, especially, were pretty much blowouts. And that was with the Canyon Italy as well. Like, it didn't look too good. So, I don't think losing 2 games to Fly in that fashion shows that they're just some bad team. I think they just got caught off guard, which is something Korea can be prone to. You know, you think back T1 versus Misfits in 2017 with the Fervor Leona. I mean, in the Blitzcrank from Ignar, like, it's a region that can be caught off guard by things that aren't standard. But with that, let's get into some matchups. Zeus versus Keen. I think this is Zeus favored, Zeus, whatever. Keen, obviously, good player, has been around a while. Thanks for losing to C9 that one year. That made me really happy. But Zeus been looking in form. I think it's hard to say because Genji has looked so good. It's pretty even. It's just Zeus provides a lot for this T1 team. He's probably more important than Keen is to Genji. I think that's fair to say. Owner versus Canyon. This is a key matchup. Both junglers. Canyon's so aggressive, able to take over the game completely, and Owner able to just find engages and really be that rock for his team. So both so key, and I don't know that I lean one way or the other, especially because jungle matchups, it's not like they just go 1v1 each other in the jungle at 3 minutes. So yeah, Faker versus Chovy. I think Chovy's obviously looked like the better player. I mean, for the last few years, Faker obviously is the GOAT. He's the best player of all time, but like, this is the Chovy prime era. Like, Chovy is the better mechanical player right now and overall has performed better. I mean, he's won a ton of LCK titles and all. It's like, you can't say that he's not a better player right now. Like, if you gave an MVP of LCK, it'd be Chovy. You don't just give it to Faker because of past accolades. Not that Faker's bad. He's just more of that role player, like I said. And then for the bot lane, Gumiushi and Keria versus Pays and Lahens. Awesome matchup. Keria is a complete monster. I think Rakan's important again in this series, truly. And yeah, I think, both AD carries have their strengths. Pays, I think, has looked better. I mean, most of Genji has looked better, especially if you look at LCK, to be fair. So let's realistically just get into it. So apparently, some reports have been saying that Genji is 20-1 versus T1 in scrims. Now, scrims are not everything, but it makes sense. T1 and Genji play similar styles, and Genji just does it better. No one does this calculated LCK style better than Genji. They really just don't lose when the games go that way. So I think that makes sense. But obviously T1 is a team that can adapt really well just from learning what teams do. And we'll see. But, 20-1 is pretty brutal. Let it be known. Obviously T1 at Worlds is different. And on the stage, they're comfortable. The roster's been together a while. Genji did almost lose to Fly, but, we kind of went over that. That's not damning, in my opinion. So yeah, I think T1 does not bring the chaos that Fly does, and Genji smashed Fly in the standard games. And T1 not picking fiddlesticks. I mean, I didn't want Fly to do that either, but we're not seeing Urgots, we're not seeing Nunu. We're just not going to see that stuff from T1, and I think Genji in a comfortable meta where everyone's picking the same 20 champs is just so hard to beat unless you are on their level mechanically like a BLG would be. Please let that be the finals. It'd be so fun. So, benefit for T1 is they showed basically nothing in quarterfinals. They didn't have to. They got through nice and easy. Standard picks just beat the shit out of TS. But in the end, I mean, the teams are obviously going to scrim. They played against each other in the same region all year, so they still know each other pretty well. It's going to be hard to really surprise someone with something when you're around them all year. And these games, it feels like first mistake loses for the most part. Like, both these teams play in that way where they can just choke you out. And I don't know, man. Genji doesn't make many mistakes unless they're forced into uncomfortable situations. And again, I just don't see T1 as that team to force those situations. I truly believe, that it requires a Genji choke job for them to lose this series. Not taking anything away from T1, but... sorry. I guess I'm tired. What can I say? But yeah, Genji just looks so good. I think BLG is the only team that can really beat them, to be honest. Man, it really just does feel that way, doesn't it? HLE was another team that could have done it, but they're not here anymore, and for the better, because all LCK finals, that's snoozer. We don't want none of that. So, what else we got here? T1, it does feel like they're kind of a worse version of Genji. And I mean, especially looking at LCK, it's fair to say that T1 went like 9-7, and Genji went 14-2, 15-1. I mean, they smoked everyone. Really, just beat everyone. Quite convincing. Massive win rate. So, yeah, obviously we talked about Faker is the GOAT, but Chovy in current form is a better player, and it just feels like Gen G kind of outclasses everywhere by just a bit, except in the jungle where Owner does play such a critical role. And we saw Zeus on that Gragas against G2 where they can kind of rise to more than the sum of their parts is the good part about this T1 team. Ugh. And yeah, T1's clutch, obviously, but Gen G has a style that doesn't entertain clutch very much. They don't really let opportunities slip once they've got them. You need to beat them when the game is even, or catch or know your timings really well. Otherwise, they're just gonna pull you apart even if they don't have to fight you. It really does feel that way. I don't know if there's much else to say. My prediction for this one, I think it's a Gen G 3-0. I think it's the same deal where, man, they're just a better team. And unless they're going to show up in choker form, they should just wipe the floor with T1. I wouldn't even be surprised if the games weren't close, to be honest. Just, I have a feeling in the end as a prediction. I think T1 needs to spice it up, and Korea is just not the region that spices it up. It just doesn't happen that much. The spiciest Gen G even got in Game 5 against Fly was, the Yon mind games into Smolder, but those are not unheard of champs. So yeah, we'll see. But I see both these being 3-0s. That's my official prediction for it. Most likely team to drop the series, I would say Gen G is more likely to lose than BLG is, just because they've got a bit of that choker label. They just really do at the World Championships. I hope not. I want Chovy or Knight to kind of, get the monkey off the back. That would be ideal. I think that's the best finals. Obviously, T1 in the finals is also really hype. I hope BLG makes it more than anything, because I think it needs to be one of these two Korean teams against BLG for that finals to really feel like, all right, this is serious. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think, or don't. Subscribe, please. I would love a bunch of money. I'm just kidding, kind of. A little bit. I'm so close to being monetized. I just need you guys to watch my videos for another, if you put it on repeat for 7 days straight on your monitor, that'd be great, because then I could get monetized, you know what I'm saying? All right, but getting serious, subscribe. Hope you enjoy. I will see you after the semifinals for some fun breakdowns. Maybe we can, kind of review everyone's tournament that they had afterwards. But until then, see you around, subscribe, or I will find you and do something nice to your lawn if you've got a lawn. Thank you.